Good evening, everyone. I am here with a very special guest,
Mhm.
and that is my wife, Tabea.
Hi, everybody.
And we're going to answer all of your country living questions. This whole stream is going to be only answering your guys' questions, and I have Tabea here to help me answer the questions. You probably hear in my voice that uh, I'm just getting a little bit better. I've been under the weather for quite some time. It's been extremely busy here and not a lot of sleep. So, trying to catch up on that now and get back to all the 8 laws of health, not just 7 of them. And we just got back from traveling. We
Mhm.
were on the road for quite a few weeks. We had some incredible Bible studies and studies with some different groups, and was really a blessing. We
Mhm.
had a week long training session, and like we've said many times before, if you guys would like us to come to your location and would like to do a training session, even if it's just a weekend, if it's something like this, and you'd like us to come and talk about whether it be country living, on prophecy, on health, on medical missionary work, any of these things, let us know. Make sure you contact our office and ask them to put you on a special list so that when we're doing our planning, that we can have you in our schedule and we can and come and see you, because we'd love to actually see you in person.
Yeah, we had a wonderful training session. It was a small group that wanted to basically hear the three angels' messages in order. So we went through the history of the three angels' messages and all the different aspects of our history, which Ellen G. White endorsed and called the foundation, which I find so important because people don't know that we have waymarks that we can point back to and say, we know this is truth, and this is truth, and this is truth. And then, therefore, new light cannot refute the old light, and we can build on those things. So it was really encouraging for the people that attended. There was a lot of testimony of, I've never heard this before. I'm so excited. I didn't know our history was so rich as a people. And that's just, it was even in what's the word, I guess you could say, it was encouraging and invigorating for us to see people so excited about the message and willing to take it to their circles and their groups and share it as well. So like MacKenzie said, if you would like to host a training program in your area, have a group of people together, whether it be your church or maybe a study group that is interested in these messages, or even if you'd like to do an evangelistic series in your area, give us a message. You can either call us, email us, and we'll put you on a list, and we can maybe make a circuit in the near future of different areas that we'll stop at, and hopefully you can be one of them.
Yeah, especially if you're on the West Coast,
Yeah.
because we're in the West Coast, and it's easy for us to make a quick trip just down to the close states because we're in British Columbia, Canada,
Mm-hmm.
and it's easy for us to do that short trip there.
Yep.
So, seems that we have quite a few questions coming in already, and we're going to be covering everything country living. You know, we've been going through this series, the final countdown. We've been going through the timeline of events. Um, and we thought we could start by sharing a little bit of our story, our individual sort of testimony and journey about country living.
Mm-hmm.
So, myself, I grew up in the central part of Canada. I would say in the country, not in the mountains, but in the country. We had several acres, 40 acres, and then we had another 160 acres. My parents did. And we had a very large personal garden that was around 1 to 2 acres, just our personal garden. Then I worked on a market garden I went and spent some time with Jerry Franklin. We actually have one of his books here, You Can Survive. And yeah, we have another one too, Country in My Heart.
That's You Can Survive is from Jerry Franklin. Country in My Heart is from Linda Franklin, his wife.
And you can get these off of our website. And ever since I was young, I first went, so the first time I seen Jerry was when I was probably around 12 years old. We went to, I think around 12. We went to his CountryLiving camp meeting. And I was, studying. I was young, but I was reading the Bible and I was reading Ellen White. And I seen, oh, wow, Revelation 13:17, we're not going to be able to buy or sell. And Noah had to prepare an ark and you have to be out of the city and all of these different things. And I realized we have to get ready. So ever since then, I was on a journey of how can we survive this time of no buying and no selling? And I made this my life work, learning how to grow and how to do it without fuel and power and all of these things. Because it's one thing to grow a garden with tractors and rototillers and quads and ATVs and side-by-sides and all these things. It's another thing altogether to do it with no fuel input or no electricity. So I started that journey of learning how to do this. And there was many process along the way.
You learned a lot about medical missionary work as well in your past. You spent a lot of time at different medical missionary outposts, and then you had extra training on the side as well.
Yes, and then some of those places had some good agricultural people. Then later, I ended up taking some different courses, some by Elaine Ingham, which we have a book that she forwarded, Grow Your Soil, and took soil microbiology. And so we can look through a microscope and see the organisms in the soil, which is not necessary for everybody if you understand the principles. And that's some of the things that we're trying to share, especially our farm apprenticeship program, where people can come here and you can learn. So if you want to come here and learn how to do this, you can apply to be part of our farm apprenticeship program. And we need help, and we need people who want to do this. Why? Because this is part of the message. This is the final message for our time, is that there's going to be a mark of the beast, and there's going to be a time when we can't buy or sell. And we need many people who know how to do this. And they need to be skilled, and they need to do it before the time comes. You can't prepare for a crisis in the crisis. No. You have to prepare for the crisis before the crisis takes place. So if you can get ready early, you can share with other people, and you can form your own groups of people, come together, learn with each other, practice together, and all of these things.
Awesome.
So let's take a look at a couple questions here.
Let's have a prayer before you start.
Oh, yes. Let's pray before we begin. We always pray before we start any of our live streams. So sometimes I forget to pray once we're live because we already prayed. Okay, let us have a prayer. Tabea, could you pray for us?
Sure. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you so much for an opportunity to just spend together with our brothers and sisters online and fellows who are trying to learn what is your truth, just as we are. Lord, I just thank you for all your blessings that you give to us, and I just ask that you will please be with us now as we get into some questions and practical applications of how we can follow your word and prepare for the times ahead. So I pray, Lord, you'll please be with us now with your spirit. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Okay, and if there's anybody who you think would be blessed by joining tonight, please send them the link so that they can join and ask their questions too. We are live, which means that you can comment your questions below or anywhere that They are on the live chat, and we can answer all of your questions. Now, I do want to mention our newsletter as well.
Oh, yes.
That you need to sign up for our prophecy newsletter and our different newsletters. And then you're going to get a lot of things that, and notifications where we're going to be presenting all these things that someone who doesn't have that won't be getting that. Also, our study notes for a lot of the different studies, you'll get that before the studies start. Now, that was a little bit about my background and Tabea's experience in country living.
Mine's basically completely opposite to yours, in the sense that I was raised in the city. We lived in the suburbs, and my family started Amazing Discoveries 32 years ago. So working in ministry was just part of my upbringing, part of my life, and I am eternally grateful for that. It has truly made me who I am, and built a relationship that I have with God like I would never have had before. So working in ministry has truly been a privilege. And from there, I was exposed to a lot of wonderful opportunities, being that whether it be health or whether it be different speakers that came, biblical topics, of course. But one thing that we didn't really touch too much was country living. We kind of did, we kind of didn't. We certainly didn't understand it fully. And when MacKenzie actually came to visit somebody at Amazing Discoveries who was working there at the time, he came to visit one of his friends. He was letting us know about the wonderful truths found in Ellen G. White's writings about country living and how important it is and how exciting it is and different things like that. That was about 12 years ago. And that was a huge reason why Amazing Discoveries moved to the country. That was part of the reason why we packed up from the city or from the suburbs and shipped up to here, which was an amazing feat and really has tons of miracle stories all along the way, which one day I would really love to share because it's super inspiring. If a large media ministry can just up and move, I promise you that your family can too when God opens the way. So that was, and it's also a testimony too of what young people can do, because you were 19 when you came to Amazing Discoveries. So just having conviction in your heart, knowing the word, knowing the truth, and being passionate about it can really move things when you allow God to use you. So that's kind of where my journey was. I didn't know much about it. I truly thought that country living was maybe not so important, or more of a suggestion from the spirit of prophecy. Like, it's a good idea. It would be ideal. And I really thought that ideals and reality were two totally different things in the Bible, and that you could just, it's ideal, but not going to happen, or doesn't need to happen. And I didn't realize the emphasis of it in the word, in the spirit of prophecy and in the Bible, about living in the country and why, and the character development, and how much easier it can be to develop Christian characters, and how much easier it can be to be ready for the Lord's return and hear his voice and learn all these different things. And then also the practical side of being warned of what is to come on the earth and then doing something about it. And we see that in, and this is one of the lectures or sessions you did before in the final countdown, was going over what Joseph's dream, the Potiphar's dream, not Potiphar, sorry, Pharaoh's dream of the 7 lean cows and the 7 fat cows, or the other way around. And he was basically saying there's going to be famine, or there's going to be famine in the future, but right now we're having 7 years of plenty, so we need to prepare. And having that simple instruction made them do something. And that's kind of where we are now. Is in Revelation 13, the Lord has told us ahead of time something to do, and being able to do something about it is actually a privilege and a requirement. God doesn't just tell us things so that we can have a nice tidbit of information so that we may be more knowledgeable than the next person. It's to actually do something with that knowledge. And that was what really changed my outlook on country living and made me switch from a very staunch city person to somebody who's now willing to look at a totally different perspective and be in a different situation, more isolated, from the city environment. And I would not trade it for the entire world. I absolutely love country living. It's such a blessing. We were in the city for 2 weeks, and coming home, it's like, I'm so happy to be home. So it's a blessing.
And what was your experience with country living like? You were in the city, and what does that mean? Like, how city are we talking?
Well, I believe that city is a mindset, and I believe that you can have a city mindset even when you go to the country or when you visit the country. And it really takes a mindset shift. When you are convicted about something that the Lord is trying to show you, that conviction can drive you to do the right things. When you do not have the conviction, it's very easy to fail in even doing the right thing. So for me, I had a city mindset. I was not raised in a high rise. I was raised in the suburbs, and we had, a larger lot that we were all very proud of. It was a 1/4 acre, and we thought, wow, we have a really large city lot. We're super happy about that. And, you walk down the streets and you do your sidewalk chalk and everything. But the main thing was my mindset, which was that I believed I had kind of that mentality of getting a nice car and wearing nice clothes. And I really loved shopping. I was a shopaholic, because what else do you do in the city, really? I mean, honestly, like, we weren't into video games. We weren't into that kind of stuff because we were Adventists and we knew that was wrong. So, going shopping and spending time doing that is something that you can do in the city. And I just had this mentality that and I guess it's sad to say in a way, but in reality, you start comparing yourselves amongst yourselves when you live in the city. And you start kind of being like, I want to succeed. And it's all about outward success. And you don't even know you have that mentality until you try to leave. And then you realize how attached you are to materialism and to things that God has literally asked you to let go of.
I think most people do not realize how much they love the city until they try to get out.
Right.
And even then, a lot of people say, oh, I'm totally fine, but they're not getting out. And that shows that you do love the city.
Yeah.
If you didn't, then you would start trying to leave. You'd be like, oh, what do I do? How am I going to do this? And this would be in the forefront of your mind. Like when Noah was told a flood is coming.
Right.
The ark, that's all he could see, was just building this ark.
Exactly. And when you're kind of switching from that mindset to country living mindset, that's where you really see how much the city has impacted you. And it can be kind of scary. You can be like, wow, I didn't realize that it impacted me that much. So I guess one thing for me was learning how to garden. We had a garden. And also another thing for me too was really hard was learning discipline in getting tasks done outdoors. Like that was something really hard for me. I hated helping do our gardening in the front yard. And we had, like I said, a very small lot when you really think about it. And a lot of it was driveway and a lot of it was parking for cars and stuff. So we had this little flower bed in the front. And I remember thinking that like I was going to literally die before I was done raking all the leaves or before the watering was done or the weeding. And it was just so much stress. So that was something that I really struggled with, was when I started learning how to actually garden and actually how to apply myself, it really developed my character, because I had a short attention span, so to speak, coming from the city. You just want to get the task over with and move on to something fun. You don't realize that there's fun in the task. And your whole character really is developed differently from being in the city to being in the country. And we had a little garden at the back of Amazing Discoveries where we used to live in the city. We were in the countryside-ish, so to speak. It was like city-ish in where we used to be located in Amazing Discoveries. But we were surrounded by a farm. It was not our farm, but it was someone else's farm. And they gave us a little piece of land. And we were able to garden, and you were very excited about that, and you wanted to garden as much as you could. And so that those little raised garden beds in the back were your thing. And you were showing me how to garden, and you asked me to weed one of the garden beds. And I was like, sure. And so I was like, let's just get this task done as fast as possible. And I grabbed the hoe and I just started weeding it as fast as I could. And I was about halfway through the bed. And then I was like, why are the weeds growing in rows? Like, why are they growing in perfect rows? I don't understand. And so I called you and I'm like, look, like the weeds are growing in these perfect rows. And he's like, yeah, those are the radishes and they're all gone now. So, learning these things was a big thing. Like, I have changed a lot. I can identify a lot of plants when I go to the garden. I know how to garden. I know how to actually do that kind of stuff. And I have changed a lot. So the fact is, you can change. You absolutely can change. And Moses is an example of that as well, being 40 years in the country. And I believe that we can learn in a short time what many have taken years to learn.
Yeah.
If we are willing. But the main thing is the mindset. And I really believe that it's important to find that mindset as what God wants us to have. What is God's mindset? How should we look at this? How should we filter every experience and every thought that we have through what mindset? Because when we have the correct one, really we can move very quickly.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a good example of the growth change that has happened. Even for myself, every year, I'm learning a lot of new things. And I think the longer you're in the country, the more you're going to learn, the more things you're going to learn. And it's a never-ending process. That doesn't mean you should get overwhelmed by it.
No.
And we have to realize, yes, there's a lot of urgency in the message. You need to act now. And the best time to get in the country was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
The second best time is today.
Right.
And this is the thing. We can't be saying, oh, it's too far along. Because 10 years ago, people were saying, there's no point. Because son-in-law is coming like next year. Or
even 25 years ago, 20 years ago. I know people that, if they had just started, where would they be now in 20 years? They would own their own home. They would own their own land. And now they're still, maybe renting or whatever. So we really do need to work and be in motion.
We don't know how much time we have. We act as if everything is going to happen extremely quickly, because that's how God says we need to act imminently. He's coming imminently, and we believe that. And it's only because of God's mercy that the final events haven't started moving faster than they already are, as fast as they're already going.
Well, Ellen White says, make haste slowly. And there's a reason for that. We need to make haste but there's a way to make haste. And we personally have learned how to not make haste.
Yeah.
We once Sadie moved up north, we ended up purchasing our own property, and we made a lot of mistakes. We were very excited to start gardening because we thought, hey, let's get this going. Let's get practicing. Let's start growing our own food. MacKenzie, like he said, he had a 1 acre garden just himself personally as a hobby when he was a kid. So he's like, it's no big deal. Let's do a garden. And I was new to it, roughly, relatively. I had the radish experience, and that was about it. And so he's like, I'll show you what to do. We'll do this. So we ended up planting just under 3 acres at our property. And you can imagine how much work that is to plant 3 acres. But it honestly wasn't that bad. It just, when you have a good system, things go quickly.
It's a mind shift.
It is.
Because going from raised beds to large scale, you don't do things the same way. And so it's not like, oh, well, I had 50 square feet, so 10 times the size means 10 times the work.
It's not true.
That's not how it is.
You just need to have different techniques and different systems and
you grow
workflows.
Differently in a garden bed than in a field.
And you plant differently. You weed differently. Everything is different.
Yeah.
So it's not 10 times the amount of work, like you said. But what happened to our 3 acre garden?
It got washed away. It got entirely flooded out and washed away because I come from a different area, different climate, coming here and didn't take into any of those factors into consideration. And it was a washout.
It was a washout.
We got a couple handfuls of peas and
a bucket of turnips.
Yeah. And that was our harvest from that entire garden.
And those turnips were over wet, so they even rotted before we ate them.
Yeah.
So we absolutely got nothing. And, this can be so discouraging. You can be like, wow, I've done so much. And the questions come in your mind, especially for somebody new. See, MacKenzie didn't have as much doubt to deal with because he's used to country living. He knows what to experience. But for me, it was like, you get all these doubtful questions like, is God mad at me? Like, why is my garden failing? I tried so much. And all these different things come into your mind. And the reality is, the more I studied, the more I realized Ellen White says that we can look at the wrecks of our garden, the ruins of our garden, and get discouraged. But the reality is we need to learn the care instructions for each plant and techniques and these different things. And they are not going to just be handed to you just because you're attempting or trying. So the Lord is wanting to work with us. And through that process, we can develop characters. It's not an instant thing. It's not, hey, I put effort, so God blessed it. Yeah. It can be like that. But we do have to continue and grow that faith muscle and be like, okay, even though it may have failed, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going until the Lord shows me, because I know this is what he wants me to do. Yeah. I really do believe he tests our conviction to make sure that we are convicted in that direction. And there will be obstacles, there will be trials, but we have to just keep going.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, well, let us start taking a look at some questions here. So we have a question from Sebastian, and the question is, we will grow spelt next year. How do you harvest your grain without machinery? Do you use an agricultural scythe? Do you let it dry in the field in sheaves? How do you hull and sift the grain?
Oh, that's a great question.
So very good question. So there's a lot of different techniques. I've tried many different methods. A scythe is great, but in order to be really efficient, I prefer the scythe has a cradle. Basically, your scythe has a long handle and a knife blade on the end, and then there's these fingers that come around, and you can make them. Here, we can put on this screen.
Okay.
And let's pull up what a scythe cradle would look like here. And what this does, I'll try and share my screen. Okay. So there's a bunch of different styles and ways that you can make the cradle. This is a nice one here. Basically, what it's doing is taking the grain as you're cutting it, and it is laying it down in a way that you can pick up the heads in all the same direction. Because if you just cut with a regular scythe, everything's going to just fall all over the place, and it's going to become quite a mess. Now, depending on how you're threshing it out, it's not going to be a problem. So if you're using a large scale, like sweep style or threshing floor, like the Bible talks about, it says, on the summer threshing floor, if you use a threshing floor, then it doesn't matter which direction the grains are.
Now, a threshing floor is basically, in modern days, it would be basically a cement pad.
Yeah.
A clean cement pad where you bring all your grain and then you just stomp on it and thresh it out.
Yeah, there was many methods that people would use. They would sometimes take an animal with a heavy sled on the bottom, or a sled, and they would drag it, across. Or they would walk in a circle, and they would have something that's rolling on top of the grain. There's many styles. We're going to do some testing, hopefully with something like that this upcoming year.
A sweep, you can do a sweep too, right? An animal sweep.
Yeah, you can do a sweep, driving a thresher. You can do it by now. If you're going to do it just totally by hand, because you're trying out a small area, it's super easy. Yeah. But I would do it with a sickle. I would do it with a hand sickle, and you can harvest 100 pounds of grain in not that long of a time.
We did that. We had it was 3 feet by 100 feet. We did the first
a couple
year,
blocks that
we
size.
We tried grain, and you harvested it in 2 hours? Maybe?
Yeah, a couple hours, and cut the block down. Basically, I just would take a handful and chop it off on the bottom and lay it in a direction. Now, once you have a good pile, then you take another small handful of it. Maybe it's like 6-8 pieces of wheat. You wrap it around. There's a special knot you do with the wheat, and you tie the bundle, the sheave, with the wheat itself, and now you stand it there. Now, we wait until it was fully dry on the field. If that's not the case, that's okay. You can bundle it, sheave it, and you can put it somewhere where it can dry, and you can just stand them up and they'll dry. If they're under cover where they're not getting rained on and there's some airflow, something like this, drying on the field is the easiest. And now you have all the bundle in the same direction, and you can there's some treadle power threshing machines where you use your foot. You can have hand crank threshing machines. You hold the heads and you hold it on the little paddles, and they knock the heads off. Yeah. Or if you have even a piece of industrial mesh that's heavy duty with big holes, you can take it and just smash the heads. Just take and whack it, and they'll fall off.
I think what we did was you just took a Rubbermaid, and then you just beat the pieces against the Rubbermaid in smaller bundles, and then it just all shelled out into the Rubbermaid. So that's good for small scale.
Yeah. And then I ended up making a thresher, a small electric thresher, where I would take handfuls at a time and put the heads in, hold it, let it beat the heads, and then I'd pull, and now you have straw, because straw is grain stalks. That's what straw is. And that's great for mulch because there's no weed seeds in it. You can put that on your plants, on your strawberries. That's why they're called strawberries, and the rest of your garden. So yeah, there's so many different ways of doing it. We actually have a video on our How to Country YouTube channel on harvesting wheat. So you can go to our How to Country and you can take a look there. But there's many methods, and just try something simple, and and you just keep building from there. Grain is the easiest thing in the world to grow. Literally, work the ground, plant your seed, and you can plant it with a seeder. We have seeders that do 5 rows at a time, and you push them.
Those are easy.
Pioneer Garden Seeder. And I think those are on Amazing Discovery's website, or
I don't
not
think
yet.
they're there right now anymore, but
okay,
people can look it up and Pioneer Garden Seeders.
Yeah.
From Remnant Seeds.
So that's actually something that we developed, Pioneer Garden Seeders. If you go to remnantseeds.ca, you'll see the garden seeders there. Very effective. Another way is just broadcast seeding by hand. You just have a bucket of grain, or however much you have, and just kind of throw it evenly, and then just you can take a rake and just work it into the ground, and really that's it. It's not super complicated. You don't even really need to water it. Now, if the birds are getting at it, then you want to work it into the ground a little bit more, but very simple, and you never weed it, and you don't do anything with it until you harvest it. Super easy and fun. Okay, we have another question here from Sebastian. Do you use any traditional equipment? It would be great if you could make a video demonstrating your technique. Actually, this year for harvesting our potatoes, so we were harvesting grain, and we did harvest the majority of it with a smaller combine that we got, but we did some of it with a horse-drawn sickle mower. So we sickle mowed to cut it down, and then rake it and everything. And that sickle mower is 110 years old. And for doing the potatoes, we ended up, because it was a little bit wet and the ground wasn't perfectly even, our tractor PTO drive potato digger was not working well.
It kept getting clogged, right?
It kept getting clogged. It wasn't cleaning the potatoes well. And so what we ended up doing was we took the horse-drawn sickle mower and we pulled it across the potatoes. We chopped all the greens off, and then we took a dump rake. That's a horse-drawn dump rake, and all this stuff is over 100 years old.
Maybe we should pull it up, because I don't think anyone knows what you just said.
Okay. I think we might actually have on our How to Country channel a clip of this.
Basically,
you know what? I don't think we do have the potatoes yet. I don't think we have something there. So I'll just show what
a dump rake looks like. The reality is, the old 100-year-old equipment did better than the modern expensive equipment that we have to harvest potatoes, by far. So it was the only reason why we got our potatoes out, really.
We did 2 acres of potatoes
that's
with
a lot.
the horse-drawn equipment. So there's a whole bunch of different ones, but
ours looks like that. It's green.
Yeah, ours is green like this. It's an old Deere.
John Deere, but before John Deere.
Well, it's a harvester John Deere, so it's even older.
Yeah.
But this is basically what it looks like. There's this cutting bar here, and the blades are like a hedge trimmer. And there's a nice one.
Yeah.
That's basically what it looks like. And you lower this down flat on the ground, and then it cuts everything off like this. Once it's flat, the little sickle bar here moves back and forth and cuts everything off. And then after we cut all the plants off, we pulled a dump rake. And this is a dump rake. And basically what it does is it gathers everything up, and then once you're at the end of the row, you dump it out. So we collected all the
potato harvester that was 100-year-old.
And then we used the potato digger.
That's similar.
Which ours is
like that.
It's something like this. basically it looks like a plow, but it's got these fingers that go behind it. And we pulled all of our potatoes with this year, 2 acres of potatoes. So do we use old equipment? The answer is yes. And we will be doing a lot more as we
Yeah.
continue
And
going.
as our oxen are learning and getting more equipped with pulling, for them, it's really just a mental thing at this point. They think they're too weak. One of them thinks that he's there to be pet, really. But he's learning. And once they get that in their head of what it means to work and how to work properly and all that, we will be using far more equipment because we really want to make those oxen very good, and only work makes them good. So that's one thing. This year, I think you used a quad to use all this equipment, right?
Yeah, we used a quad and we used a little Kubota tractor actually to pull the potato digger, little tiny one.
And then you did have the ox pull.
We tried
the potatoes.
So we were gonna get so Samson, he's our toughest little guy.
He's so strong. He thinks he's so strong too.
Yeah, he's gonna be 2 years old at the end of February, and he's getting really big. He's well over 1,500 pounds right now, and we hooked him up to that potato digger, and he pulled it like there was nothing behind him. The only problem was we only got a few feet, and then we hit a big rock, and he was going to pull right through that rock.
He was trying,
and he broke the yoke. So the yoke on his neck actually broke. It ripped the pins right out. And so we were stuck there until I was able to make a new yoke, which I made a new one now, but we had to finish pulling the potatoes and I didn't have a backup. So we just hooked it up to one of the little tractors and ended up using it as the ox. But
that was just amazing to hear about how Samson, because I wasn't actually there. I missed the event, but poor Samson, he was so strong and so sweet. And that's the thing that's so amazing about working with animals, is watching their strong desire to please you. Like, they will literally push and go and head down and just full motion. And he was wanting to please you. He wanted to dig the potatoes out, and he was willing to do it even to break his yoke. So that just shows the sweetness of these animals and the gentleness of their character, even though they're so strong and so valiant when they move.
Yeah. No, they do want to work. And yes, we're going to be making a lot more videos on the different techniques that we're going to do. That's also why we need some more help here on the farm, especially if there is farmers. We need farmers. We need people who know what they're doing, because we would like to do more demonstrations of some of these things, and we need help doing all the work, because there's a lot of things that happen here. Yeah. I mean, we do a lot of stuff in Amazing Discoveries, not just gardening. So the more help we have, the more we can do.
Amen.
Okay, we have another question here. Tara, how do you transport water with no electricity?
Yeah, well, I guess my first thing would be, where's your water? And what kind of water? So if you got a well, then that would be a different approach. You need a well pump, hand well pump, to actually get the water out. And if you're talking about getting it from a creek or a river nearby or something like that, I wouldn't drink out of a pond. I would always drink out of running water if you were going to actually drink. But maybe you have a large pond just to water your garden or whatever. There's so many different ways that you could approach this depending on your typography. So the most straightforward and the most clear answer is you need an animal, really, in order to do it effectively and quickly. If you had a large goat, they could take a certain amount of water, or if you had a cow, they could haul a lot of water for you. But if you're talking about watering your garden, or if you're talking about drinking in your house, that's two different things too, because even you can plumb some of your deep well pumps or your shallow well pumps into your house, and then you just have a pump in your house, which is super easy. But for watering gardens, like the absolute and most wonderful ideal is that your water source is higher than your garden.
Yeah. And your house.
And then you have gravity fed, and you can literally make channels where the water can run, either on the top, or you can use modern technology for that, which is still off the grid, like drip lines and stuff, to be able to do gravity. But you can even do it the ancient way, which was just trenching. These big, beautiful trench system that just you open the floodgates and the water just comes down and waters your garden for you. So that's absolutely ideal. But that's not always plausible depending on the piece of land you have. We currently do not have a piece of land that has water above us. So another method then would be what Ellen White did in her house in Elmshaven, which was a windmill that pumped water up to a tower, and then she had gravity feed. So she had gravity feed in her homes, flush toilets, faucets with running water, and then of course the gardening, all because of the windmill that pumped it up to a water tower. And you would have to have a water tower that's heated in our climate.
Theirs was in the buildings.
Yeah, it was within a building. It was in a separate building. It was called the water tower building, I guess, or something like that there. And you would need a fireplace in it in order to.
Well, the one that she had in St. Helena, that one was in, I believe that it was the.
Was it where they did their editing?
It was in the editing building in the attic.
That's right. So it's a building that's being used, so they have heat, so it keeps it from freezing. So you kind of have to think about that. I don't know if I would want to have a huge water tank above my house in case something leaked. It's nicer to be in a secondary outbuilding, but then you have to heat that. So however you want to slice it, gravity is the best way.
If you have a smaller tank, it's not really a big deal to have it in the house. We're not talking about something that's, weighing thousands and thousands of pounds.
You wouldn't want that for your garden, but in any case, that can be
for the
separate.
garden. So the garden can be separate. That can be a large tank,
even.
like a water tower, because you're not using it in the frozen time of the year. And if you don't freeze, then it's not a problem. But you can set up a water tower. That's what I think would be an amazing idea. And you have a windmill, or you have an animal sweep. A sweep is where animals walk in a circle, and by walking in a circle, they're driving a shaft, and you can hook that up to a water pump or some sort of piece of machinery to do work, and they can pump the water up there, or whatever it might be. And then the simplest, no tech way is you just have a water tank on a wagon, and they walk down to a creek, pond, or whatever, and you fill up the tank, and then you drag it to the garden or to the house or whatever, wherever you're going with it.
And they being draft animals, because I don't think that would be very fun to pull.
No.
Human powered, but there are some cool little. They just look like wheelbarrows, and they have a big bucket in the front that humans can push around. But to be honest, they're quite small, and why make extra work? So we have to think big picture, because we are going big picture with gardening and these types of things. So the best is to find land, if you haven't purchased it yet, with a gravity system that you could work with. And if not, then think how you can make a gravity system using wind or draft sweeps, or even turbines. You can use turbines on a creek if you have a creek lower that's fast enough, or a river.
And everyone's situation is going to be different, because God will lead them to a different property.
Yeah.
And each of those is very specific, but there's lots of options.
Yeah.
Okay. Devlin, this may not be directly about country living off grid, but I want to ask, how will we know when it's time to stop growing food? And what essentials should we take with us when we leave our country homes?
That's a great question.
That's a great question. That's a huge question, though.
But it's a good one.
Well, okay, let me see how we can answer this simply. The best is if I had the whiteboard, but
Well, you
that'll
have
be
your
a
computer.
little bit difficult right now. Um, Here's the thing. When we are going to flee, this is not something that we decide. So we are not waiting for something that, and we're like, okay, now's the time, and now we're gonna book it into the mountains. No, God will tell us. He will send his angels, and his angels will then take us and show us the way. We're not even supposed to plan our journey, and we're not supposed to take anything. That is a really important point. There's no planning for this time. When we flee, it's 100% on God. He shows you where to go, he shows you where to run, and he feeds you. He gives you he gives you bread, he gives you manna, and he feeds you with ravens and angels. So,
And that there's actually a story in the Bible telling us that, when you see these things, do not even go into your house to take your coat. Just go.
yes.
And that is the time that it's talking about, is the exact time when we have to flee our country homes. There's nothing we take with us. The Lord will take care of us. He will feed us with manna. He will feed us with ravens bringing the manna, and angels. Ellen G. White even says that there's soldiers that will be angels that are dressed as soldiers that will guide us and help us and protect us along that way. So we will be completely and 100% dependent on God's hand for protection at that time, because there's no other way. That is when God intervenes.
Mm-hmm.
God intervenes when there's nothing you can do for yourself. Not because God doesn't want you to rely on him. Even when there's something for us to do, we have to rely on him. It's 100% a faith journey the entire time.
Yeah.
But if there's something we can do, that's the path God wants us to take, because he wants us to learn something. He wants us to be active. Idle hands are the devil's playground. And that's kind of what the Lord really wants us to understand, is that we need to work in order to gain proper character development. But at that time, when God has to 100% intervene in order to take care of us, there is no character to develop, and there is no other way to survive without direct intervention from God.
And how do we know when to stop growing? Well, once the angel says, come with me, that's a pretty clear sign.
Well, I actually think that it's going to be clearer, because when we look in Revelation, Revelation 18, it says, your plagues come in one day.
Mm-hmm.
And so we know that that's prophetically 1 year. And Ellen G. White says she was shown, and maybe Jacob can pull up the quote for this, but she was shown that it is contrary to the Bible to be laying up food for that time. A lot of people take that.
Pull that up.
A lot of people take that quote and say, well, that's talking about Sunday law. Sunday law, it's contrary to the Bible to prepare for anything that we're talking about here, basically. But that's incorrect. That is misapplied. That quote is talking about the time of trouble. And when you read what the time of trouble is in the Bible, it tells you that it's the time of the plagues. So when the time of the plagues are falling, it is contrary to the Bible to lay up food and to grow a garden. Why? Because it's 1 year. And when you're growing a garden, you're growing a garden big enough for the winter, and that's laying up food. And so it's contrary to lay up food for the next year when you know that the plagues are coming within a year and that you will be going home soon. So it would be like telling God, I'm going to grow anyway, just in case you don't show up. And that's a lack of faith. So it's contrary
we will be
to
growing,
the Bible.
but we won't be preserving.
We won't be preserving for the winter. It will be just for our immediate needs until the angel comes and takes us away.
So here's the quote. The Lord has shown me repeatedly that it is contrary to the Bible to make any provision for our temporal wants in the time of trouble. I seen if the saints had laid up food by them or in the field in the time of trouble, when sword, famine, and pestilence are in the land, it would be taken from them by violent hands. This is while we're fleeing. Because before then, our country property is protected by angels.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's protected by angels, these strangers are not coming in. But when we are not there anymore, then God's protection is removed from those properties, and we just grew it for them.
Right.
Now there's
That's not good.
another reference that I think you were talking about, and it's in I believe Isaiah 33. We'll see if I am correct. Okay, Isaiah 33 verse 16. Isaiah 33 verse 16.
Okay.
He shall dwell on high, his place of defense shall be the munitions of rocks. This is when we're fleeing into the mountains and the caves. That's why it's literal that we need to be in the mountains. And we've talked about this before. And if you study mountains, God's people are always in the mountains. It's not just the country. They need to be in the mountains.
And just today, this Sabbath, I was reading that Jesus always tried to take his crowds that were listening to him and wanting to learn. He tried to take them out of the cities and into the mountains. That's how the Sermon on the Mount happened.
Exactly.
So he was drawing them to a place where they could think clearly.
And it says, bread shall be given him, his waters shall be sure. Now, if you are preparing, you don't believe Isaiah 33.
That's why it's contrary to the Bible.
And there's a lot of people, and they're very sincere, and I get this, and they're not understanding. They think we need to get fire starters, and we need to learn how to make shelters, and we need to learn how to do all these things and prepare for fleeing. Right. No. When we're fleeing, this is 100% reliance on God. There's nothing for us to prepare for. We prepare for the no-buy, no-sell, when we have to grow our own food, and we have to make our own clothes, and we have to do our own soap, and we have to heat our houses and everything off of our property.
And the no buy, no sell period, Ellen White's very clear in her writings that during that time, God has restraining power still over the nations so that we can still work. A, so that our property is safe and so that we can actually function in our country home, but also B, because we are actually preaching the loud cry during that time. And if all mayhem has been released, how can you preach the loud cry when it's literally survival of the fittest at that point? And that is what will come when the four winds are fully released. It will be complete chaos like the world has never seen.
Yeah.
And it's during that time where we must be in God's full care.
And we're going to talk more about this in some of the later final countdown studies, because we haven't actually got there in the timeline yet. We've only got to the time of no buy, no sell. So we're going to be continuing later. Okay, so let's see here. John, another question. If you want to be prepared in the country, but live in another country, and that country is locking down on immigration, how can you settle and be prepared with a foreign spouse?
That's very complicated.
I think the number one thing is you claim the promises of God. You claim the promises and you pray like you have never prayed before. This is the number one thing, because you know what you need to do. And if you're striving and you're doing everything you can in your power, what you need to do now, God will work a miracle if that's what he needs to do, and he will move you exactly where you need to go, and you do not need to worry. The big thing here, 100% obedience doesn't mean 100% stress. 100% obedience means 100% faith, which means stresslessness, because we're putting our reliance on him. We're doing everything we can, and then what we can't, we leave for him. Now, that doesn't mean we compromise.
Right.
There's no compromise. You can't say, well, I'm going to keep all the 10 commandments, but I can't find a job not on Sabbath, so I'll work on Sabbath.
No.
That's compromise. You can't say, well, God said, get a country property in the mountains and be ready for anything and have enough land to grow food and wood to heat your house and everything. Well, I don't have it, so I'm going to compromise. No. Noah didn't say, hey, I don't have enough wood.
No.
It took him 120 years to build the ark because
he probably had to go get wood. It wasn't all nearby, I'm sure.
We're told that he had to go travel and he got the seeds from all around the world so that we have plants growing now and vegetables. So it's not about compromise. It's about even more faith that he's going to help you do what he asked you to do.
Now, from my perspective, I am a very strong believer in if there is a will, there is a way. I have seen that working in ministry 100 times over, that it does not matter how tricky the situation is. If there's a will, there's a way. Now, that can backfire because I have seen that you can be so set in one direction that you make a way when that wasn't necessarily what God wanted you to do. So in your situation, when it comes to immigration, we at Amazing Discoveries have had many foreign workers, and we've worked all the ways through the right connections with immigration and with the right legal forms for those things. And it has been times where, immigration works in cycles. Sometimes the country is more open, and then sometimes they lock down, and it can be completely dependent on the economy. And right now, or right at that time, we've had many times where it was quite locked down. And it didn't seem like there would be a way to get our worker into the country. And with prayer and with dedication, there's always a way. It always worked out for God's glory. But at the same time, in other situations, you can make a way when God doesn't want you to. So I highly recommend that you are moving forward completely prayerfully and allow him to open and close doors. Never give up faith that he can make a way. He's an all-powerful God. Immigration laws mean nothing to him. He doesn't want you to do things illegally, but you can get a stamp on your passport when no one else did. So there are things that God can do. Just keep faith, but at the same time, be open to his correction. If he tells you, this is not where I want you guys, I want you both moving somewhere else or whatever it may be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. Okay. Leonard Morris, where do you buy your seeds from? Okay. This is a great question. Seeds are super, super important. Years ago, I actually had a seed company and I was selling seeds, and I would like to start that up again because that's important. How do you know what seeds are good? Where do you get them from? Are they open pollinated? Are they heirloom? Are they,
what does that even mean?
What does that all mean? How do you know this is good Sunday law seeds? And there's a lot of places that you can get some decent seeds from, and different growers. Now, we would like to reopen the seed company so that we can have seeds for Adventists. And if there's someone who's interested in helping with that, let us know. But if you just look at some of the different seed companies out there, make sure they're untreated. You do not want any treating on the seeds. Make sure they're open pollinated, because that means that you can save your seed. It doesn't have to be heirloom, but heirloom's great.
That means it's heritage.
It's old. It's going to be an open pollinated if it's an heirloom. You do not want hybrid seeds. And there is no reason for hybrid seeds.
There is no reason for hybrid seeds. We at Amazing Discoveries grew an entire garden with hybrid seeds. And at the same time, we grew an acre of non-hybrid seeds, open pollinated. And there was a marked flavor difference between the hybrid seeds that grew in the same soil with the same conditions and the same water, to the open pollinated seeds. They tasted amazing. They had much more flavor. They were delicious. The hybrids are designed for transport and primarily for looks, because they go to the store, so they have to look good, but they don't necessarily taste good. So I highly recommend going with open pollinated. The only one thing or two plants that are hard to do open pollinated is the long English cucumbers that everybody loves to eat at the stores. Those are hybrids. And it is an art on how to grow broccoli. Broccoli open pollinated tends to bolt quite easily. So a hybrid broccoli is easier. So if you don't want to feel like a failure, then start with a hybrid broccoli. But
once you find the good varieties,
yep.
once you find the varieties, and here's another thing. I've been saving seeds for well over a decade and a half. And this book here, this is Seed to Seed. And I would recommend that everybody has this book. If you're going if you're doing country living, you need this book.
We carry it at AD.
We carry that on our website, Amazing Discoveries. And it goes over all the different kinds of seeds and how to save them. The thing is, once you start saving a seed in your area, it gets more acclimatized and it gets better and better every year.
It takes 3 years to develop a variety that is 100% local to your area.
So every year you're going to be like, oh, wow, it changed in this way. It changed in this way. It got earlier. It got bigger. It got this. It got that. Because it's adapting to your area.
If it's open pollinated.
If it's open pollinated. And that's the key, is you want not treated and you want open pollinated seed. Now, there is a thing about quality.
Yes.
Because different companies do have very different quality. I wouldn't be going on, Amazon and getting this prepper's bucket of seeds necessarily. Some of them might be okay.
The main thing is, because seeds are grown and adapt when they're open pollinated, where they're grown really will depend on your success. So there are a lot of seed companies in Canada and in America that purchase seed from South America because it's cheap. Or India because it's cheap. But we have colder climates here. We in the South, you guys have more humid. In the North, we are more extreme cold, and that does not work. Things will bolt faster. Things will just not take longer than it should, even though it didn't need to. So you kind of want to look, when you're looking for a seed provider, you want to look for people who have seed that's grown in North America if possible, because that will be the highest quality that you can get, and the germination rate as well.
So there's a lot of factors. There's even little local seed companies in some places that have decent seed. Try them out, test them, see if the germination seems good. We are working on being able to offer seeds again. So if you could have that in your prayers, we'd love to be able to have that. So Adventists know this is good seed. And this is going to be something beneficial for Sunday law.
But I highly recommend this book because
you need to learn this. Even if you can buy seeds now,
one day you can't.
You can't buy enough, and they expire. Some seeds, they don't last for 20 years just sitting on a shelf.
And the thing to know,
some do, but some don't.
Coming new into this, like MacKenzie comes with all the knowledge and I come with all the new, right? So I was asking a lot of questions. And one thing that I learned that was really, really important is that to understand how seeds cross-pollinate. Because if you're trying to save your own seed, if you put your seeds in the wrong spot in your garden, you will not be able to save your seed, because now you do not have true seed. So you might have a tomato that's red and you plant it right beside a tomato that's yellow, and next year you have a striped red and yellow tomato. So congratulations, you made a new variety, but you'll never get those seeds again that were true. So understanding the science behind this is part of what Ellen White was saying when she said we must understand the science behind each variety and how to care for it properly. And that this book will help you do that, because it is a little bit of an art and a science. And don't worry if that's not where you're at yet. That's phase 2. Now you can buy seeds, but know that in the future, this is something you should learn, because you will not be able to constantly buy true seed.
Let me read it here. It says, this is from Adventist Home, page 142.3.
You want to share the screen?
I can share the screen, sure. In the cultivation of the soil, the thoughtful worker will find the treasures little dreamed of are opening up before him. No one can succeed in agriculture or gardening without attention to the laws involved. That's why we are trying to educate people the way we are, because you need to know the laws.
Yeah.
The special needs of every variety of plant must be studied.
Wow.
Different varieties require different soil and cultivation, and compliance with the laws governing each is the condition of success.
That is so big.
I mean, and then she goes even more into transplanting every root fiber misplaced, and pruning and watering and
disease and weeds and
all
pests.
These things.
These are things that we need to learn. And a lot of people are like, well, that's so much work. And coming from the city, yes, coming from that mindset of a lack of desire for labor, I'm literally telling you that the city grows lazy people. And I was one of them, because I did not know what it meant to put dedication into something hard enough. But I truly believe that the lack of that skill is salvational. Why? Because the Bible says, straight is the gate, narrow is the way, and few there be that find it. So that means in order to find salvation, in order to even understand the Bible, in order to understand what the Bible says on a topic, we need dedication. And if we're not used to dedication, if we think it's too much work, we will not apply ourselves. And Ellen G. White says many lose out on eternal life because they are too indolent. And that word indolent means lazy to obtain it. That's strong. And so I want to encourage you, coming from a fellow citier that is no longer a citier, that although it may seem daunting, these little things are what will change your character and give you more ability to sit down and spend more time with your Bible, because all of a sudden it's not as hard. It's not as complicated. It's not as boring. It's not as, you have stretched and grown your stamina muscle by doing things in your daily life that stretch your stamina muscle.
Yeah.
And then you have more stamina to search and seek in the Word. And I really, truly believe that this is why God, through inspiration, through Ellen White, told us that it is 10 times harder in the city.
Absolutely. Okay, next question. Hi, can you tell me, if someone wanted to move to the country and can't afford to buy land, would rented be available? I don't know if you're saying rent from us or rent in general be an option.
I think rent in general.
If rent in general, if you can't afford to buy something, absolutely, go rent in the country.
Rent.
It's better than renting in the city.
Yeah. I mean, I personally would recommend, and
that's not your end goal.
Yeah, I recommend, but who am I? Don't take my recommendations. Pray about everything you do. But I would think that it's probably best to get a mortgage and then you're paying off your mortgage instead of paying rent. But that's not always possible for some people. Maybe they have bad credit, or maybe they don't have the down payment saved, or whatever may be your situation. That's okay. God knows. Rent. That's totally fine. I know there was 40 acres for rent at one time that had 2 beautiful homes and a gorgeous river. I mean, what a beautiful place to be renting and maybe raising your family or whatever you could do there. And it was so much cheaper than the city.
Little steps.
It was, I think, and our rent in Canada is really expensive. But, for 40 acres and 2 homes and a garage and a carport and all that kind of stuff, all included on this land and a beautiful river. It was $1,200 a month. Whereas in the city, for a basement suite, you're paying $1,800 to $2,100 for an apartment
in Vancouver.
So, and that's pretty much anywhere in the whole Lower Mainland area. So, that's way cheaper, and you get way more. So God blesses in the city, in the country.
It's about making these little steps, but also maybe there's someone that's in the country and like, hey, can I help you?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be just, you don't have to pay me. I just want to learn and I want to help. And that'll get you in the door. I did this a lot. Jerry Franklin, he needed help, and I went there for a while and just helped him out. And at other different places, you go and say, hey, don't pay me. I just want to help, and you just show me. And that can be an option too. You need to just pray, and you start checking doors and looking for options, and God will show. And you make those little steps. And even if you buy a place that's a little more in the country, and then maybe you do something to it, you clean it up, even if it's just minor things, and then you sell it, and now you have a little bit to do the next step. However God leads, but it has to be prayerful. And I can't stress enough that you have to be praying every single day, specific prayers regarding this. And
Mm-hmm.
God will show you exactly what you need to do.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you store your grain? Do you use a silo? And how do you ventilate it without electricity? Thank you, and may God bless your very important ministry. Well, praise the Lord. Really, it is like once you're at the right moisture level, if you've let it dry properly on the field or after whatever, a Rubbermaid tub,
yeah,
a 5-gallon food grade bucket.
We personally use I don't know if everybody in the world has access to Uline, but Uline is in North America, both in Canada and the US, and they're industrial supplies for commercial endeavors. But you can buy if you're not a commercial business. And what we did is we bought these blue drums. How many gallons?
I can show a picture of what they look like.
They're food drums, and they are sealed on top with a big rubber band and not a rubber band, a metal band, and they have a rubber seal in them, so they're airtight. And they are phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. We purchased grain because we weren't growing it at the time. We didn't know how, or we did know how, but we didn't do it yet. We never experimented with growing grain. It's the blue ones right here on the side.
Right here, yeah.
So we purchased organic grain in 2020, and still to this day, we are eating grain from those tubs, and it is perfect condition.
You don't need to have any ventilation once it's at the proper dry level.
But I don't know, does it change depending on where you live? Like if you live in Tennessee, would something change?
If it's super humid, that could be a different story. That's why I prefer it in the cool, dry mountains. And when we're told to be in the mountains, I think everything just becomes a lot easier.
It actually does. A lot of
you get cold. You get colder, but everything else is easier.
And a lot of the bugs die too that would kill your garden.
That's another thing. We keep all of our grain outside in a shed, not heated. It's just got a roof and it doesn't get sun on it. And when it freezes every winter,
at -40,
that kills any bugs or whatever, eggs or something that could be there. No problems at all. If you don't have freezing and you're in a warm area, that can be troublesome. Storing grain a long time can be harder because there might be some little insect egg in there or somewhere, and then it's going to hatch, and then it's going to cause all sorts of havoc. And that does happen in some areas. But
I guess that's why Ellen White talks about not storing food for long periods of time, because it's just going to be wasted. So I guess that would apply more to areas that are in the South where things can rot faster or bugs can get into them. But in our area, that's one thing we don't have to deal with.
Silos are fine. These barrels are fine. we have some called Canadian Tire. And I mean, even if you go to Lowe's or Home Depot or whatever, if you check, some of those buckets are food grade.
Yeah.
Our ones at Canadian Tire are great. They're just white 5-gallon
Home Depot
buckets.
ones are too, I believe.
And
should check.
They're food grade and they're not expensive.
Yeah, that's where we store our other beans and stuff that's not as large quantity as we have of grain. We store them in just 5-gallon Home Depot buckets or whatever. Just check to see if it's food grade, and ours is, so it's no problem.
And I mean, if necessary, you can build a wooden silo.
Yeah.
And like in Saskatchewan, where I'm from, you can see the old wooden silos along the highway. They look like a little cabin, but it's not a cabin because on the door, there's a board going halfway up the door. And you're like, well, how can you get in? Well, you're not supposed to get in. The grain was poured in the top.
Right.
And then you open the door. Now you can just kind of scoop it out and it's not all going to flow out of the door.
Right.
So now we have another question here by Marcin.
You would need cats if you had a wooden one, though. For
Cat would be not a bad idea for something like that.
Yeah.
Big bags, people use even giant, bags and stuff. I love the barrels though; they're fantastic. You can use them forever.
Yeah.
Okay. How can someone? Okay. How can someone overcome shopaholism and become a better steward? If you're nowhere near a store, you can't be a shopaholic.
It's so easy. It is.
You just have to disconnect your Amazon.
I found that I was a lot more of a shopaholic than I even thought I was. And to be fully honest, there's not much else to do in the city. There's so many stores that you can go to, and we would just, it would be fun, and it was relieving. The reality is that there's a lot of stress in the city that you are not aware is on you.
Yeah.
You are not aware of the amount of environmental baggage that is being put on your shoulders being in the city, and you're looking for outs. And one of the out is to shop, because it makes you feel good. You got something pretty and you made your home nice, or you bought a tool, or you got some clothes, or whatever it may be. It relieves a pressure that you are experiencing. And that's the same with all addiction, whether it be alcoholism, whether it be, social media. All of it is there to make yourself feel better. And some addictions you can bring with you in the country, but shopping is not one of them. So that's a really nice thing.
Another thing is, once you realize the severity of what you have to prepare for and how much it actually takes to do that, you're going to think twice, because, oh, I remember I need to buy that cast iron pot, and that costs this much. And I need to get that hand pump, or this hoe, or this, I need a whatever for, I need to save up for an ox. So I need some different stuff for that. And you're going to feel, I actually have a need for this real thing.
Yeah. For me, everything changed. One of the hobbies down in where I was from, which was Vancouver area, there's beautiful mountains all around Vancouver area. And so we would hike them a lot. And one of the things I loved to buy was hiking gear and camping gear and all the kind of like fun type of gear for that. And I really thought it was helpful for potentially country living in the future. And then I realized that all that spandexy material and all the delicate raincoats and stuff like that gets torn when you are touching a barbed wire fence. And things don't last up here, and you're not going to use a tent when it's -40, and everything changes. So you realize that you need to actually buy totally different things, and you can find joy in that. But at the same time, one thing I want to caution is, and I'm not sure where you're at, but for me, I liked to get the cart before the horse. So I really want to warn you not to do that. When in the country, you have expenses for things that you need, like outbuildings. Like maybe you don't have a shed and you need a shed. Or maybe you're building a house, which is another story, and we can definitely talk about that because I recommend not doing that. But if you have to, if you're building something and you need something, don't go and buy the things for the building before you have the building.
Yeah.
And that is so easy to do when you are coming from a shopaholic mindset.
Oh, this is so nice. It'd be so nice
It's
in
on
there.
sale. And you
We're
end
saving
up,
so much money by
Yes.
buying it before we need it.
and even you can do that with the supplies for the house. And to an extent, you should. Maybe you can purchase a few sea cans and put some supplies for the house that you find that are on a deal in those sea cans. But at the same time, like, you're buying a bathtub and there's the foundation's not in, right? And what happens when you miscalculated and now you're only got a foundation and you got a bathtub? You know, you now need to go save your money and build the rest, and you've got a lot of stuff that's just rotting on your property. Or worst case scenario, you have the stuff, you don't have a sea can, which we've been through, and now you're sitting there tarping all your free gems that you gathered to try and protect them from the elements. And I'm just telling you, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Don't buy things for things that you don't have. If you don't have a home, don't buy things for a home. If you don't have a shed, don't buy things for a shed. Buy only what you need. Save money for what you need, like a building. These are bigger things, and then furnish them later. So it's just a little life lesson, but maybe you already know that. But I think that kind of helps be a steward, is having a really big goal and a desire and saving towards it, and denying yourself when you see something you want and say no, because I have a bigger goal. And I remember, for me, what really got me to understand being a good steward is what Ellen White talks about our funds, and really understanding that our funds are not our own. They are the Lord's, and every dollar, every cent can be used for his honor and should be used for his honor and for his glory, either in ministry or in building our country home. So that really humbled me and changed my mindset. All right, we got another question.
I really like the next question, actually. How will we tithe during the time of no buy, no sell? Will this come to an end?
Oh, that's
And
a good question.
This is a great question. Now, partially, you can look at it two ways. You're not going to be having any sorts of monetary increase because you are not buying and selling. So that is going to come to an end. But you also have to realize that there's going to be people coming in because of the message that we're giving, the medical missionary work, and we're going to be giving this tithe to the work. Like, all that we have is going to be put into the work. Mm-hmm. And this will be our return. And it's not going to be a formal tithe to an organization or a ministry or anything like that. It's going to be to the work that we are locally doing. It's not going to be a 10% thing. It's going to be 100% thing.
That's true. But in any case, back in the past, in the old times, it wasn't a formal donation to a ministry. It was tithing of your grain, and it was tithing a percentage of your food. It was a tithing of your increase, right? So it'll be 100% for the Lord at that point.
Okay. I keep hearing God will tell his people when it is time to leave. How exactly is this conveyed? I know you must have a relationship with him to know just what to do, but what if hearing seems cloudy? Now, here's the thing. The time to leave is already long gone.
Are you talking about leaving the cities, or are you talking about leaving your country home?
I'm thinking the city.
Okay.
To move to the country is what they're saying. And we just need to ask God how we're going to do that.
Exactly.
That's what Lord, is it this place? Is it that step? Is it this? And you know what? If the hearing is cloudy, a lot of times that's because either we're not obeying the medical missionary rules of the health
8 laws of
laws,
health.
we're not eating the diet of the 144,000, or we're in the city and that's clouding us as it is. And we need to detox from social media. We need to detox from our health. And we're going to be talking a lot more about health coming soon because we're doing a lot of work with that recently, especially with the community and things like this. Now, all of these can factor. And maybe what you need to do is take some trips out instead of being a vacation. It's going to places to be in the country,
Go to like
study,
the nearest mountain if you have one, or a nature park or something like that, and spend the day there.
Yes.
Go for a hike, go for a walk,
read, study, pray.
Look at the nature and pray and study in the nature. That will help you connect your hearing to the Lord. But one thing is that obedience, a lack of obedience, will disconnect you from God. So anything that you're possibly doing that could that you know to do and you're not, for you it is sin, for us it is sin. That is the same thing as if you know that you need to be doing something and you're not doing it, or you're delaying to do it. You will find that you're hearing him less and less and less, and it's harder to hear him. So correct everything you can. And then if it's country living, the thing that you need to do, of course, he's not going to not talk to you until you're in the country. That's not what I'm saying. But if there's something else in the way, correct that. But then he's still sick. I'm sorry. But the main thing I want to say is what he said. I want to emphasize that and underline it and bold it. If it has been commanded in the scripture and in the spirit of prophecy, again, enforcing it and commanding it, then there is no question if you need to pray about it and ask if it's time for you to leave. It is time for you to leave. If God shows you that Sabbath is his day, do you need to pray about keeping Sabbath? If you've seen it in scripture and you see the scripture is telling you that Sabbath is the seventh day and you need to keep it holy, are you now supposed to pray about it and say, well, am I supposed to keep it holy? No, you will never get that answer. If God does give you that answer, it's out of his mercy for you. But many people don't get that answer because that is the wrong question. That is a question of feelings. Like, Lord, what do I feel like doing? Do I need to do this? It is not a question on studying the word and putting the word above anything else. So we need to practice putting the word first. And that's the one thing I want to say, is that if it says it, we just need to obey. We do not need to ask, is that for me? It's for you if you want to follow God. So that's number one. Now, for your specific position on how you're going to move out, make sure that there's nothing separating you from God. Spend time in nature, reading and studying, and he'll make it clear. Look for open and closed doors, look for opportunities, and do not allow fear to prevent you from taking opportunities, and don't decide what the solution should be. There's that story. What's that story of that guy? It's not a real story, but the guy who was on the rooftop because there was a flood. He was completely flooded out, and a helicopter came and said, I will save you. Our boat came, I said, I'll save you. He said, no, I'm waiting for God. And then a helicopter came, I'll save you. Oh, no, I'm waiting for God. And then the guy died in the flood. The flood came up and drowned him. He got to heaven and he's like, why didn't you save me? Which is absolutely not a biblical story because you don't go to heaven when you die. But anyway, and God said, I sent you a helicopter, I sent you a boat, and you didn't take the opportunity. So the moral of that little parable is God can give you solutions in ways that you are not accepting. And so you may be blind to them. So be open, have no preconceived ideas. The Lord can open doors for you if you're completely willing and humble and ask for all forgiveness of sin. rectify your wrongs, and he will show you, and you will recognize that it's from the Lord, even if it's not something you expect.
What do you think about leasing land for 5 to 15 years if I can't afford to buy land? Leasing in my country is not expensive, but to buy is. Will no buy, no sell affect this? Unfortunately, yes.
You think so?
I would not rely on that because we don't know when it will start and when it will end. And we need to be preparing that this thing could be 5 years, 10 years, longer, and we don't know when it's going to start.
What about a 150-year lease?
Well, this I don't know. I don't have the answer. I think that would be something to pray about. But
you have to check the rules and the laws in your land. But I looked into it, and for me, I don't actually see too much of a difference between ownership and leasing of land as far as your rights as a citizen.
If it was not a 5-year lease.
Yeah, you would need definitely a 150-year lease. But as far as leasing goes, I don't actually know if there's much of a difference between owning land and leasing land. I may be completely wrong. I am certainly not an expert. So that's just something that you need to look into is, do you have more rights as an owner versus someone who's leasing? And can you get more rights as an owner? Because there are ways to get more rights. Whether you own your title deed, whether you actually hold it in your hand is a lot more than if it's in the title office and stuff like that. So look into it, do your research. But yes, do not just rent for 5 years, rent longer.
Yeah.
If you're going to lease.
And I do believe that God will put you in the right position that you need to be. God will not show you to do something and give you impression and inspiration to do something that is not correct. But that needs to be done with a lot of prayer. And even if you have to move countries, and I know that sounds like a crazy thing, but Abraham had to move countries, and this might be an option for some, but do it with much prayer. Can you buy a trained ox to help train up the calves to be oxen? Now, this is actually, it's not like a dog.
But it's a good question because dogs do train other dogs.
Oxen are a little bit different. Let me just share the screen here, just to show a picture.
The best oxen are actually dairy breeds. So dairy breeds come from barns, and they have absolutely no experience pulling, but they make the best ox.
So here you have some little tiny calves, and they are learning how to do their job. And then you get some bit bigger guys here doing work, and all the way up to some larger oxen, which this is more the size that mine will be, maybe even slightly bigger than this, but they're going to be real big. Now, the thing about training them is you don't use another ox to train the young ox. You learn how to lead, you teach them the commands, and then you teach them how to pull light things, and they slowly kind of work into it. It's not complicated. It's not hard. It takes a little bit of time. The amount of time that I've been able to put in working so much with Amazing Discoveries is very little compared to what most Teamsters do. And, my boys still wanted to do for me. And that probably has to do with that I really, really like them. And they see that and they want to work. And you have to be clear with your commands in that. And actually, the biggest training is not for them, it's for you.
Yeah.
Because you don't know how to communicate to these creatures that don't speak English.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is, Ellen White said the A, B, and C of education is agriculture.
Yeah.
And part of that agriculture was that they had to use animals. There was no such thing back then as tractors and rototillers. And you had to communicate with these beasts before you went to do the ministry work with people.
Yeah.
And I think, and it teaches you so much. And before I would do maybe anything, go find someone in your area who has oxen.
Yeah.
Or travel a little ways. On the East Coast, there's hordes and hordes of people who
that
have
do this,
oxen.
yeah.
On the
It's
West
still-
Coast, there's a couple. There's myself. There's some there's one in California. There's very few.
We're the only Adventist one.
We're the
I
only
know of.
Adventists.
The others are not Adventists, but you can still
Not
learn.
even on the East Coast. I don't know any other Adventists besides us who is actually doing this.
Right. But you can still learn. They're very friendly,
Oh, yes.
willing
Super
to teach
nice.
and kind people.
Yeah. So I would go and just say, hey, can I come see you for a day or learn some or couple days? That's what I did. And I talked to people. I contacted people, learned, and books. There's some really good books.
Yes, good books.
Like with horses, if you go to horse people, they'll say you need a mentor.
For 3 years.
And you have to work with that person. With oxen, get a book, get some calves, and you're good to go. You'll figure it out.
You'll figure it out.
And it's about that simple, really.
It is, and
if you like
isn't.
animals, and if you have a way with animals, it's a lot easier. But that's why I said go see some, experience it for a little bit, see how the feeling is.
Yeah.
There's a great book on Oxen, a Teamster's Guide.
Yep.
And another one just called Oxen. That's by Carmen Legg. And I've talked to him before. And, these are some really, really good books. And if you read it diligently and you have some young calves, it's
quite simple.
You just keep learning and you can do it.
From coming from not having an animal at all, I would not start with trying to train oxen unless you're extremely
If you've had
ambitious.
no animals, probably not.
No, what I would do is if you've had 0 animals whatsoever, go and buy a Labrador Retriever or a Golden Retriever dog. I'd say start with a dog, because learning how to train the dog, learning discipline for the dog, learning how to have that dog respect you is key. And if you've had none whatsoever, a Labrador and a Golden Retriever are the absolute easiest and the most rewarding because they love you. If you've already had experience with animals, then I would recommend going to goats. Goats is a fantastic introduction to hoofed animals.
Yeah.
You understand how they act, how their mannerisms are. You learn their body language. They're very similar to a dog, but they love herds. So you always have to give them more than one to be with. Otherwise they get sad. So, get 3 or something and just put them in your little yard.
Goats are very addictive. Once you get a couple,
they are.
You get a lot more.
We started with 3 and now we have 12. But anyway, every color looks beautiful. Every color is so cute and they are sweet. They're very similar to a dog, but they're hoofed. And so you get to learn their facial expressions and their mannerisms, and you start reading them and understanding them. And then from there, you can get the oxen. I would say that would be my advice for steps.
Because then you learn about feeding hay and, all that kind of stuff. They're okay outside.
Some diseases are similar.
Talk to people close by. Most people in any country place are going to find someone who has some animals, and they can ask them some questions and write into us. Like, as we're doing the live streams, you can ask about all this. That's why we do this, so you can ask.
Yeah.
And there's definitely better and worse breeds of goats and oxen. And now oxen's a title. It's not a breed. So oxen means that a steer, which is a fixed bull, is 3 years old and he knows how to work and he has experience. It's like calling someone a farmer or calling someone a doctor. It's basically their degree in working, and then they become an ox.
Yeah.
So mine are still classified as working steers. They are not oxen. I just say it because it's easier for people to understand, but technically they are working steers. And there's easier breeds, cheaper breeds. There's more complicated ones that you want to stay away from, and that we can get into another time because we're actually almost going 2 hours.
We've almost gone 2 hours. But one more thing about the animals that I want to, for someone who's
There's
new.
still a couple questions, I think.
If you want to speed up your lots of questions, we might have to do this again. If you want to speed up your education with animals, go with a more advanced dog like a German Shepherd or something more dangerous, so to speak, and get a professional trainer.
But that's not going to
Always-
be so helpful for you with your livestock because
But it's going to teach
be-
you one thing. It's going to teach you one thing, or at least you can at least know this principle. When dealing with dangerous animals like an ox or a dangerous dog that's potentially dangerous,
Powerful.
discipline and obedience and space is everything.
Yeah.
Giving, like when you get a dog and you bring them in the house and there's one spot they're not allowed to be on. They can be everywhere, but they can't be on that one spot. That teaches that dog that they have a place and that they need to respect your space. That is the same principle you're going to be teaching your powerful oxen, because technically they could kill you if they make one wrong move. And so
even by accident. They could squish you.
So understanding that when I say something, it means something, because otherwise
it is law.
I am not safe. That is what you're teaching your dog. That is what you're teaching your ox, is respect for the human. And there are certain behaviors that you may have with a dog that you may never have with an ox. An ox may never climb onto your lap like a dog would. An ox may never, rub up against you, because that could kill you. That could push you against a wall and crush you. They cannot do certain things. And that seems
and when they're
not
tiny,
fair.
It seems cute.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, it's so cute.
A small dog, it's cute. But as soon as you go with a big dog, now all of a sudden that dog can bite you and it's not cute anymore. So we see it on that scale too. It's more powerful the animal, the more the rules are required to be enforced.
Your space. You need to control your space. They can't come in and start pushing on you. But that's for a whole nother training conversation.
Should we wrap up, or what do we do?
Wow, there is still a lot of questions.
Awesome. It's really great.
I would love to answer all of these, but
maybe we have to go faster.
I don't think we can, because there's about as many questions as we've answered already. Maybe we'll have to pick this up. Okay, let's save all of these questions. Maybe we can do another session. Maybe next week we'll do another session. We can start with this. Wow. I'm glad there's so many questions.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's really great. I think we're going to have to wrap up.
We can maybe do a few more. I mean, I'm fine. Are you fine?
Okay. I'm going to get a little bit tired because I'm wore down here.
Okay. Well, let's not push it, but maybe we'll do one more or two more. Let's see how fast they go.
Okay. Are we not to have sold our homes before the time of trouble? Also, she says houses and lands will be of no use in the time of trouble. Okay. This is why we can't do this in a hurry.
We want to take time for each one.
This is one of my biggest pet peeves in all of country living Adventism. And it is so terrible, because we're supposed to use the weight of evidence. And this has no weight of evidence but one misused quote that she is not talking about this at all. And people use this to say we got to sell our country properties. Absolutely not. But we should walk through that. I think we're going to have to wrap up here, because this is going to be another 2 hours, at least another hour, with these questions. And no, I really enjoy taking the questions. It's awesome. If you guys would like more streams like this would be a lot easier than having to prepare sometimes a whole presentation.
I think
and we can start doing it more often.
Both are good, because obviously presentations are important, but sometimes just talking about practical experiences and seeing, different human interactions, like, it becomes more real, because you can learn from each other and hear the experiences.
And we're going to start having some testimonies on the live streams from different people. So make sure you're watching out for that. Go subscribe to the newsletter, because then you won't miss it when we're going to do a special program.
We also actually have a free offer for you guys, very special, for those that have signed up for the Final Countdown newsletter. So if you have not signed up yet, go and sign up. You can put the sign up link on the bottom of the for you guys. Just go to finalcountdown.com, I believe, or Amazing Discoveries, or finalcountdown.amazingiscoveries.com. Go there. Get to
.org.
.org. Can someone please put it up on the screen so that you guys know, they know what's the right link? But anyway, go to that spot, sign up, and then you will be able to get the free offer for today, which is the Country Living by Ellen G. White. Go ahead and read through that book. It's a free online resource for you guys to watch the final count, the Country Living by Ellen White booklet. And MacKenzie has gone through a lot of the quotes in previous Final Countdown videos, but I recommend doing it on your own. And one thing to watch for is the dates in which she says things, because she intensifies as the dates progress. The book is not written in chronological order. So it starts really powerful, and then the middle is really punchy and they're really big, and then it completely tapers off. And it's like, there will be a time when you have to move to the country. And everyone's like, what? It's obviously not important. But those dates that she said, there will be a time, it was earlier on and the time had not come, but in 1888 the time came. So watch the dates, see her progression, and study through that resource, because it's really, really important for the times we are living in. And make sure you sign up for that Final Countdown newsletter. You will learn more about other events that we have, other programs, and more in the Final Countdown series as well.
And I just want to say again, our farm apprenticeship program, if you want to come here and learn how to do country living, make sure you contact our office. You call in and you say, MacKenzie was saying that you guys have a farm program. Come here. If you are a farmer,
that's even better.
Then we need help.
And if you just want to learn, that's okay too. But I do want to put a caveat, because MacKenzie always says, call in, call in, call in. And then you guys call in and you may not get an answer right away. And I just want you to know that we do hear you. We do love the fact that you applied. And please be patient with us. We are so bogged down. It's really small team. We have a very small team doing a very large work. And we just were gone for 3 weeks. So it's been hard to catch up and sit down and get through all the applications, but we know you're there and we really need you. So please don't think that we don't care. We absolutely care.
And if you've been waiting a while,
just
contact
nudge
again.
us again. Nudge us again. Just call in and say, hey, I'm still waiting, because we know and we really want to get to you. So we will do our best to get there as quickly as possible, but don't give up just because we're slow. I'm sorry about that.
And if you'd like us to come and do some studies where you are, then let us know also, so that we can start planning accordingly. I think we should pick this up next week.
Okay.
Instead of waiting another 2 weeks, we're going to do next Sabbath, same time,
not Sabbath, after
same
Sabbath.
place, just after Sabbath, on Saturday, 5:30 p.m. PST time, exactly like this. And we'll pick up with these questions, because you guys did ask them right now. And we're going to save this so that we can pick up with your questions next week. So make sure you join us. Thank you for watching. God bless, and we will see you next week.
See you next week. Thanks for having me.